Virginia Senator Joe Manchin isn't ruling out a potential 2024 presidential run. Manchin was the keynote speaker at a town hall held by a group called No Labels. That's a bipartisan group trying to get a third-party candidate on ballots across the country. He's also actively considering a presidential run. It's a prospect that has some Democrats scrambling, fearing that if Manchin gets in, he could take away votes from President Biden or even flip the Senate. Manchin says it's putting the cart ahead of the horse as far as a presidential run comes, but calls on lawmakers to find common ground.
Democrats, get off your high horse. Republicans, get off your high horse. Get off this extreme left and extreme right and start working for us. And if there's no movement and no voice in the middle, I'll guarantee you they'll stay where they are.
Now, No Labels says they won't make a decision on whether they'll field a third party or a unity ticket until the spring of next year. Manchin says he'll have a decision about his future in Washington by the end of the year or by early 2024. Well, social issues and the fate of our very country itself increasingly taking center stage in this presidential race. The Wall Street Journal even arguing, quote, the 2024 election is a fight over America's way of life, pointing to many Republican voters who believe society has been corrupted by liberal ideas about race, gender, wokeness, social issues. Meanwhile, many Democratic voters believe the Supreme Court is rolling back decades of progress on equal rights, particularly with its decision to overturn Roe v. Wade just last year. Julia Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill, joins us now. Julia, always good to see you. This report really paints this growing sense of alarm among voters over the direction that this country is headed in. And we hear this kind of urgency in each major election, but I don't know, something feels different this time around. Is it?
Yeah, good to see you, Marky. Look, a lot of this has to do with the fact that we live in a post-coronavirus world. And I think during the pandemic, we saw a number of these social issues on both sides of the political spectrum really come to surface. I mean, obviously, in 2020, with the police killing of George Floyd and, you know, the other amplifications of stories about the killing of unarmed black men, for example, we saw on the left and, you know, maybe some moderate voters very much voice concerns about that and talking about how we need to talk about more of these issues surrounding race. However, at the same time, on the right, you saw a lot of concern about shutdowns, lockdowns during the pandemic, particularly when it came to school. And from that, we saw a lot of concerns starting to come about surrounding what children were learning in schools. And we've seen that sort of impact how the right has tackled this issue. So we're definitely at a cultural turning point at this point in this country. However, going forward, it's really unclear how this will impact the general election, because I think with these social issues on both sides of the aisle, these are very staunchly left and staunchly right voters. Right. We don't know exactly how the moderate or the middle will vote going forward.
Yeah, and in this article, you know, it shared poll numbers stating that 80% of Republicans fear the Democratic agenda will destroy America. And in reverse, about that same percentage of Democrats fear the same thing of Republicans. And I know you just listed off a myriad of concerns, but for each party, what would you say the chief concern is? At the top of that concern pyramid for each aisle, what are both sides most concerned about here?
Yeah, so first of all, my first reaction to seeing those statistics in the Wall Street Journal article is that both sides of the political spectrum are living in two completely different realities, and they couldn't be further apart. And that's very obviously concerning when it comes to the state of partisanship in this country. In terms of what both parties are concerned with, look, I think on the right, a lot of it has to do with education, curriculum, these social cultural issues when it comes to, gender identity, for example. I think you're hearing a lot of that being amplified on the right. And on the left, I think there certainly is a pushback against that, but there's definitely a push for more equality on the left. And there always has been, or what they say is equality, whether it comes to gender, LGBTQ equality, racial equality. So the two sides of the political spectrum don't really see eye to eye on these issues. They can't really see where they might overlap at some point. So it shows how far apart we really are.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.